Good morning, Kuhner country. Okay, my friends, it's the biggest story in the country, and how could it not be? So, just to understand the whole context of what's happening, Texas now, in the wake of the elections of 2024, in which now millions of new voters who have been pouring into Texas voted for Trump. Clearly now, Texas is becoming even more red, even more Republican, even more pro-MAGA. As Trump has pointed out, in the last election, he has now won more votes of any presidential candidate in the history of Texas. So what you're seeing now is that politically, yes, Texas was always a red state, but over the last couple of years, it has become even more of a red state, honestly, thanks to Trump and the MAGA movement. So, to make the political map of Texas more fair, more representative of the recent election and really the trends in Texas now going back several years, they have decided to redraw the map of Texas, the political map of Texas. And this has been done at the urging of President Trump and at the urging of the Republican governor of Texas, Greg Abbott. It's called gerrymandering. That's the more loose term for it. So their argument is we want fairer representation, in particular, heading into the all-important 2026 midterm elections. Trump said, and this is his argument, and he's right. Trump says, look, the Democrats have gerrymandered California to get many more Democrats elected to Congress than what you see in the vote, in the actual popular vote. Illinois, New York, New Jersey, here in Massachusetts. You know, people don't realize this, but here in Massachusetts, what is it, 41% of the electorate voted for Trump? You don't get out of 10 seats, you don't get 4 Republican seats. They have gerrymandered this state. It is 9-0. All congressional districts are Democrat because that's how the lines are drawn to favor the Democrats. So Trump's argument is, look, the Democrats play dirty. This is what they do. They gerrymander states. So it's time for Texas to say, no, we want fairer representation. We want a new redistricting taking place, a new political map, and this would add potentially 5 new Republican seats to their congressional representation. So those 5 extra seats could be the difference between which party holds power in the House of Representatives in the wake of next year's midterm elections. All hell now has broken loose. The Democrats, fearing that they may lose the midterms if Texas gets an extra 5 seats or 5 more Republicans, to be more accurate, 5 more Republicans who win these congressional seats, now have gone nuclear. They have literally fled the state of Texas. Over 50 Texas state lawmakers, Democrats, every single one of them, refused to join the quorum to start the session of Texas, of the Texas state legislature, to join that state legislature and start a session. So they refuse to participate, which means the state legislature can't begin to vote on this new political map, this gerrymandered new map. And so what they have done is they have literally fled the state of Texas. They are now holed up in Illinois, in which the Democrat governor, that moonbat Pritzker, is now vowing to give them safe harbor and a safe haven, saying nothing will happen to them as long as they stay in Illinois. He will protect these lawmakers. They are not going to come back until Greg Abbott relents and agrees that he will not gerrymander the state until the 2030 census. So we are now talking about a game of political chicken, a game of political brinkmanship. Trump now yesterday weighed in, saying, I want the FBI to help Texas and the Texas law enforcement to arrest these state lawmakers in Illinois to force them to come back to Texas. Force them to come back so that they can open the state legislature. If they don't, they're going to be arrested and they're going to be thrown in jail and their seats are going to be vacated. They have a deadline of this Friday, basically showdown at high noon. Listen now to, these are Texas Democrat state reps who, you can't make this up, they're at the airport fleeing the state regarding the prospect of redistricting, and Republicans are getting 5 more congressional seats, or possibly up to 5 more congressional seats. Listen now, they're saying, my God, if Texas can add 5 more Republican seats, if they can gerrymander this state, our democracy is over. Roll cut 2, Mike.
We will not relent to an authoritarian president that wants to steal and racially gerrymander our black and brown districts.
This extraordinary step of a quorum break is so that your voices can be heard.
This is the destruction of America and the destruction of value of our vote. So you see me? Look at here. Bye. I'm out. But I'm here for you.
So, and that's, you see this, I think this is Romano Romero, state rep Ramon, my bad. Ramon Romero. And he's getting into the plane. It's by the way, they got on a private plane that we now found out has been chartered by the PAC belonging to Beto O'Rourke. Remember him? He's been a failed candidate for governor, for Senate. This guy's been a loser. But anyway, his PAC is paying for this private plane, and they took 50 of these state lawmakers and flew them to Illinois. Now, the leader of this gang, of these rogue Democrats, is the minority leader, Jean Wu. Jean Wu now says, this is it. They have to stop Trump. They fear with this redistricting and Republicans adding potentially 5 more seats to their majority, that this will make Trump unstoppable in the midterms. Remember, they want to impeach Trump after the midterms. They want to take back the House, start defunding, and most importantly, impeaching Trump and investigating and just paralyzing and bringing his presidency to a screeching halt. So he now says, if we don't do this, if we don't stop this redistricting, Trump will win the midterms and our democracy is over. Roll cut 2A, Mike.
This is the last tool that we have to stop Trump. If politicians can simply stop listening to their people, it's over. Our democracy, everything that America stands for, will be gone.
It's gone. It's all gone. According to them, it's all gone. I mean, God forbid Texas should redistrict its maps, its political map. Forgive me. God forbid Texas now should start redistricting the way the Democrats have been redistricting in other states. Listen now to Beto O'Rourke. He's basically, in many ways, the guy who's providing the money for them to be staying in Illinois. By the way, there's fines. Each lawmaker now is fined $500 a day because they're deliberately holding up the session of the state legislature over in Texas. So they're being held up every day. They can't get a quorum. So basically, they're paralyzing the Texas state legislature. So it's a $500 a day fine for each single state representative. That's okay, because the Democrat donors are picking up the tab. They're paying for all these fines every day, plus the meals, the hotels, the food, everything. Beto O'Rourke now says this is going to inspire others to join this attempt at breaking Texas and its ability to redistrict its map so that Republicans will lose the midterms in 2026. Roll cut 2B, Mike.
They're going to inspire other people who have been wanting to see Democrats stand and fight, because this comes at great personal risk to them.
Yeah, there's no personal risk. The only thing is it's a fine. Now, some may get arrested, but what's going to happen to them is they're going to be brought back to Texas, hopefully, if the FBI can nab them, bring them back to Texas. Once they're brought back to Texas, then their seats will be vacated. You have a duty to represent your constituents in the state legislature. The state legislature is open. It's time to vote. You don't want to vote for gerrymandering, you vote against it. But what they're doing now is literally subverting the will of the people in this Texas state legislature. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, so you now have, what is it now, 50 plus Texas state lawmakers, Democrats. They've gone rogue. Now, many of you are just asking, they're texting the Kuhner man saying, Jeff, I don't understand. Why do you need these state lawmakers in order to have what's called a quorum? In other words, to start, to allow the session of the Texas state legislature to begin so you can start voting. They got to vote on flood relief. Remember that devastating flood that they had in Kerrville and those areas? They've got to vote on that. They've got to vote on property tax cuts. And, of course, on this huge gerrymandering bill. The minority leader, and this is in every state legislature, you come in, you start your day of business, and you say, do I have a quorum? And you have to have both the majority leader and the minority leader say, yes, we have a quorum. Meaning, we're ready, the majority's ready, the minority says, yeah, we're ready, and then boom, you can start the day's business. Well, the problem is that the minority leader in Texas is gone. That's Gene Wu. He's gone. He's in Illinois. And he took 50 other state Democrats, lawmakers, state reps with him. So you can't have a quorum. If you can't have a quorum, literally, and it's now been Monday, Tuesday, today's going to be Wednesday, and they're not coming back. So it's going to be 3 days and counting. Literally, no legislative business is being done in Texas. And in particular, they are blocking the all-important vote on this redistricting, this congressional redistricting plan. Now, they know that if there is a quorum, Texas has the votes, the Republicans have the votes to redistrict Texas. It will pass the House. It will pass the state Senate. Greg Abbott will sign the bill. And by redrawing these political lines, you are looking to up to 5 extra seats in Congress for Republicans, and Democrats will lose 5 seats. By the way, Jasmine Crockett, that whack job, is one of them. So her district is going to be essentially erased. So if she does run, she's not going to be running anymore in a blue district. She's going to be running in a predominantly red district. And a crazy nut job moonbat like her is going to get destroyed. So politically, this is going to be the end for her. She's facing political oblivion. That's why she's going apoplectic, but let that go. So the Democrats now are in full meltdown mode. Greg Abbott now is upping the stakes. He has not just now sent out arrest warrants for all of these Texas state lawmakers in Illinois to be brought back to Texas. He now says they're going to lose their seats if they're not back by Friday. He wants the Supreme Court to weigh in. There's no representation. You vacated your seat. And he says this is bribery. You are being paid by an outside entity to not work in the state legislature. And he said, according to him, the fines that are being paid by these outside donors, the private plane that was hired for them to tail it out of Texas, the hotels, the food, everything. This is a form of bribery. And he says he's going to charge all of them with bribery if they don't come back by Friday at high noon. Listen now to Governor Greg Abbott. This was on Fox News. Roll cut 1. Mike.
It would be bribery if any lawmaker took money to perform or to refuse to perform an act in the legislature. And the reports are these legislators have been both, they sought money and they offered money to skip the vote, to leave the legislature, to take a legislative act. That would be bribery. And so the facts will have to come out. But I think based upon comments made by legislators themselves, they face a possibility of facing bribery charges, which is a second-degree felony in the state of Texas. There's one way to cure that, and that is if they get back to the state of Texas and make quorum today at a hearing that we have at 3 o'clock, they can cure themselves of any quid pro quo that would subject them to potential bribery charges.
Yeah, that 3 o'clock deadline, that was yesterday. So there's the final one. This is their Ken Paxton, the Texas Attorney General. The guy's a pit bull. He's now come out with Abbott saying, look, we're giving you a final deadline. It's this Friday, high noon. So you're not back by then. We're sending out the marshals. We're going to send out the FBI. Trump is now saying he's willing to help and cooperate. And we're going to go right into Illinois, into their hotels. We will arrest them and drag them back to Texas. And then they're going to face the consequences. Now, let me just say this before I open up the phone lines. 617-266-6868. The irony of all of this is that the one state that these Democrats are now holed up in is obviously the crooked state of Illinois, which may be, literally, Illinois may be the most gerrymandered state in the entire country. Their congressional district political lines are rigged. I've never seen anything rigged to benefit Democrats the way they've done it in Illinois. And just to show it to you, this is the hypocrisy in this is so thick you can choke on it. President Trump, just to give you an example, got 43% of the vote in Illinois. 43%. The congressional delegation, Illinois' congressional delegation, 17 seats. 14 Democrat, 3 Republican. 14 Democrats, 3 Republicans. And just a few years ago, do you remember what they did to Adam Kinzinger? That loser, never Trumper? They redistricted again the political map in Illinois, and they redistricted Kinzinger right out of his seat. So here you have a state that all they do is gerrymander, gerrymander, gerrymander. You've got Republicans getting 43% of the vote, and out of 17 congressional seats, all they get is a lousy 3. They should get at least, 7, 8 minimum. So you see, the Democrats can stack 3, 4, 5 seats in their favor. That's okay. A lot of reaction coming in now. Text line, on Messenger, email. Of course, the phones are now starting to light up. A couple lines are open if you still want to jump on. 617-266-6868. This is from Dave, our constitutionalist correspondent in Western Pennsylvania, right near Pittsburgh. Jeff, these Texas Democrats are communists. They don't get their way. They throw a tantrum. They need to be held accountable. I'm with you all the way, Dave. All the way. Look, this to me is outrageous on so many levels. You are literally subverting the state legislature. You are preventing from the people's business from being done. I mean, so what is this now? Is this now the new way Democrats operate? You don't get your way. You don't just throw a tantrum, but you just leave. You flee the state. And apparently many of you are telling the Kuhner man a couple of these Texas state reps are here in Massachusetts. So I guess they're worried that they're going to be arrested in Aurora, Illinois, where many of them are being held up. So I guess a couple of them are coming here. So what, Healy's going to protect them? What, Michelle Wu's going to protect them? So is this now how you operate? You don't get your way and you just don't allow a quorum? You don't allow the state legislature to proceed? They can't do any of the people's business? You just literally paralyze government and prevent votes from being taken on anything? Not just this bill, but any bill, because now you don't have a quorum. So the legislature now is literally not allowed to function. You can't do anything. I'm sorry. You want to talk about an insurrection. How is this not an insurrection? Now, let me just make the obvious, by the way, and this is illegal. You know, it's not just that it's immoral, it's unethical, it's clearly anti-democratic. It's a subversion of democracy. It's literally illegal. Now, on top of all of this, okay, this needs to be said. California has been gerrymandered for the last several decades. That has cost Republicans minimum 6 to 7 seats in Congress. Okay, in the House of Representatives. 6 to 7 seats. Illinois, I gave you the numbers just before the break. Trump wins 43% of the vote. 43%. And the congressional delegation, there's 17 members that they sent to the House of Representatives. 14 Democrats, 3 Republicans. That's how they've gerrymandered that state. That's how they've redrawn the congressional map to squeeze in as many districts as possible that are blue so they can stack it in favor of Democrats. You're looking at least 4 to 5 seats that Republicans should have in Illinois. I can keep going. You want New Jersey, New York? Here, Massachusetts. Let me just quote Trump. Here, this is Trump. He was on, I believe it was, CNBC. He was on CNBC. And, of course, the media, this is against democracy. What are you doing? You can't allow this. What do you mean, Texas is going to redraw its map to give Republicans more seats in Congress and take away seats from the Democrats? This is unthinkable. And Trump turns around and says, look at the People's Republic of Massachusetts. I almost got 40% of the vote. And what's the congressional delegation here? What's the congressional representation? 9 congressional districts, 9 Democrat members of Congress, 0 Republicans. It's 9-0. There should be at least 3 Republicans if you're going to draw it fairly based on, representation and population. It should be right. At least a third. At least a third. So 1/3 of 9, it's 3. It's 9-0. So the 40%, actually it's 36. He got 36% of the vote. But the close to 40% have no representation in Congress whatsoever. I don't see you in the media complaining about it. I don't see you Democrats saying, this is the end of democracy. No, what you say is, hey, you redraw the congressional maps, to the winner go the spoils. Now, when it's finally turned on you for the first time, you get a taste of your own medicine. Suddenly, now the sky is falling. Listen to Trump. Roll cut 16, a mic.
Massachusetts, I think 41% of the vote. It's a very, blue state. And yet it's got 100% of Congress, 100%. So I got 41% or something. And yet 100% of Congress in Massachusetts. No, it shouldn't be that way. We should have a couple of Congress people, but we have none.
He's completely right. In fact, here, just one more. He said, okay, let's talk about Illinois, where most of them now are holed up in. Illinois, the most corrupt in terms of a political state. It's the most corrupt and the most gerrymandered, rigged in favor of the Democrats. Listen to Trump saying you've got Illinois number 1, California number 2. You guys don't complain about that. That's costing Republicans at least 10 to 12 seats in Congress, the way they've gerrymandered it. 10 to 12 seats. Roll cut 16A. Mike.
And think of this, 100%. In Illinois, we have probably the dumbest of all governors. Illinois, that guy is really sending, I mean, the business is flowing out of his state. It's terrible. It's a terrible thing that Pritzker's doing. He was the black sheep of the family. They threw him out of the business. But in Illinois, what's happened is terrible, what they're doing. And you notice they go to Illinois for safety, but that's all gerrymandered. California's gerrymandered. We should have many more seats in Congress in California. It's all gerrymandered.
So he then says, and so I said to the guys in Texas, if the Democrats can gerrymander, Texas is going our way. The vote went even higher for us in the last election. Millions of more people are voting for Republicans. We want fairer representation. No, we're going to redraw the political map, and now we're going to add 4 to 5 seats for us. In other words, what's sauce for the goose is sauce for the gander. Listen to Trump. Roll cut 16B, Mike.
And we have an opportunity in Texas to pick up 5 seats. We have a really good governor, and we have good people in Texas. And I won Texas. I got the highest vote in the history of Texas, as you probably know. And we are entitled to 5 more seats.
I don't know. I have to check on that. And they expect...
Check it. Why don't you check it, Brian?
The fact checkers expect us to check everything you say on the phone.
I want you to check it.
But for 4 years, those fact checkers didn't fact check anything that was said about... we don't need to relitigate that either, but...
That's Joe Kernan, who, by the way, I got to say, at least is honest. He says, they're in my ear. I got to fact check that you had the most votes. But I got to be honest with you. When Joe Biden was president, they never told us to fact check anything. But with you, we got to fact check everything that comes out of your mouth. And by the way, I don't want to play the cut and waste your time. Kernan comes back and says, no, our fact checker said, yeah, you're right. You did get the most votes of any presidential candidate in the history of Texas. In other words, you've got solid grounds to redistrict the place. Okay, to gerrymander it. Now, listen to Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick. He lays it out beautifully. Roll cut 3, Mike.
New York, New Jersey, Illinois, California, and Washington State. Donald Trump received, on average, 42% of the vote. But in Congress, in those states, the Democrats have 90 representatives and Republicans only have 27. In Pritzker's state, the president got 43% of the vote, and 14 of 17 are Democrats. No, we are doing what is legal. We are doing what is right on behalf of Texans. We've had over 2 million people move here in the last couple of years. They're voting more and more Republican, and they deserve and want Republican representation in Congress.
Beautiful. In 40 seconds, that's Texas's Lieutenant Governor, Dan Patrick. He laid out the case to me, I think, succinctly, simply, concisely, and I think brilliantly. So, no, I'm sorry. The Democrats now can't face this fact. Under Trump, and honestly under these Texas Republicans, MAGA Republicans, you're now seeing a different Republican Party. We're fighting back. God bless Texas. Texas now takes the fight to the Democrats. And I'm telling you, like a bully who's now been punched, they can't handle it. I mean, they're crying, they're yelling, they're screaming, they're whining, getting a taste of their own medicine. And let me tell you something. I've never seen anything like this. Panic across the entire Democratic Party. So let me ask all of you, do you support what Governor Greg Abbott is doing in redistricting the map of Texas? I do. But, and more importantly, should he now send in marshals? Should he now cooperate with the FBI and arrest these rogue Texas Democrat lawmakers and send them back to Texas, in which they will be stripped of their seats and maybe even face bribery charges? 617-266-6868. Larry in Leominster. You're going to kick us off, Larry. Thanks for holding and welcome.
Jeff, help me. I'm confused. I thought Texas was going deep blue. What happened?
I think Trump happened, Larry.
Oh my God! So, did you ever notice that whenever there comes to having to be responsible for their own actions, Democrats cut and run? Do you remember they did this up in Wisconsin, and they did it in a few other places? And it's just, all they're lacking is diapers and pacifiers at this point.
Larry, do you think this tactic is working? The Democrats and the media claim it is. That this is inspiring Democrats to fight all across the country. Now, I'm going to play the cuts a little bit later. I want to get to some calls, but Gavin Newsom now says this is going to launch now a political war, that California will gerrymander even more. Illinois, if you can believe it, Pritzker has come out and said it's not going to be 14-3, it's going to be 17-0. By the time we're done, we're going to manage to redraw the lines in which there will not be and I don't know how you do that with 43% of the vote going to Trump, but let that go, that they're going to redistrict it to 17-0, not 14-3, 17-0. And you've got others now coming out. Hochul in New York now says this is political war. I will redistrict New York. In other words, we're going to make up those 5 seats that the Republicans are hoping to pick up in Texas by making maybe 10 extra seats ourselves. In other words, that this has now led to a gerrymander war, and the Democrats say in the end they will win. What say you?
Jeff, they're definitely in a panic, but I don't think your audience knows exactly why. This is very little to do with Texas. Texas has actually overshadowed what just come out in the news. This is why they're in a real panic. The Supreme Court has signaled they're willing to take up a case just like this that will have nationwide implications on this whole gerrymandering crap, and it'll restructure it that not 5 seats, they're estimating that Democrats could lose up to 25 seats. It'll be just in time for the midterms because they'll make the decision in June. They can do quick redistricting, and they're really out in the pasture. That's the true panic. They're trying not to let on to it. But this is what's actually happening in the background that people may not be aware of.
Interesting. Larry, do you think the state Democrats, are they going to blink? Are they eventually going to come back before the Friday noon deadline? Or do you think they want to force Trump to arrest them? Not Trump, but I mean the FBI. Trump now says he'll send in the marshals. He's willing to send in the FBI. Abbott says he's going to send in the TPS, the Texas Protective Services. He will send agents from Texas. And with the FBI, they will nab them in Massachusetts here. They'll nab them in Illinois. They'll nab them wherever they are, put them in handcuffs, put them on planes, and literally fly them back to Texas. Is this going to happen, or is this all talk?
It's going to happen. Remember, nobody's above the law, wherever you heard that. Here's another problem. They've pulled the trigger prematurely, so to speak. This is only 2025. They cannot hide for over a year. They're going to have to come back, and this is going to get done. That they're bloviating and they're making headlines because look, it's Jasmine Crockett is the scaredest of the scared because she's going to lose her seat. That's why she keeps coming out with these unhinged rants, calling Trump this, calling Trump that. Big shock. Democrats also have a problem. Is they're at their most unpopular in over 30 years. Depending on what, polling, they're either at 28% or 19% approval. They found out that rock bottom has a basement.
Interesting. So, Larry, what you're saying is we're now staring at maybe the death knell of the Democratic Party. The further left they go, the more extreme they go, the more socialist, the more radical. Really, in many ways now, the more communist they go, the more their numbers in the heartland go down and down and down. And they're now essentially committing political suicide. And Trump's the guy, and MAGA's the movement that's going to finally bury them.
for a penny and for a pound at this point.
Larry, as always, thank you very much for that call. By the way, Jasmine Crockett is going berserk. I mean, berserk. Just quickly, because I want to go to the lines. Listen to her now. This was at a rally in Arizona. By the way, they're going to redistrict her out of her seat. She is going ballistic. She literally went on stage and called Trump a piece of, I can't say it, a piece of crap. Okay? Just to clean it up. Roll cut 13. Mike.
The Supreme Court has paved the way for half the stuff that we see that's going on. Listen, Donald Trump is a piece of shit. Okay, we know that. Yes. He is. But in a functioning democracy, he still would not be able to get away with this. But he's been able to get away with this because the House Republicans are complicit. He's been able to get away with this because Senate Republicans are complicit. But most importantly, the courts, especially the Supreme Court, is complicit. And so I think one of the places that we have to start is we are absolutely, they are the highest court in the land, and they have no ethics guardrails. Now you go down to the lower courts, and they do. How much sense does that make? When we know that they're taking money, we have the paper trail, and they refuse to put guardrails on themselves, so it's time for us to do it for them.
So, in other words, Supreme Court is corrupt, burn it down. Donald Trump is a POS, okay, a piece of you-know-what. Burn him down. Burn Congress down. Now it's like anarchy. They're like flamethrowers now. Just burn everything to the ground. Now, by the way, this from the party that keeps telling us that Trump is uncouth, that Trump is too vulgar, that Trump is somehow not respecting political norms and political civility. Now, you tell me, when is a Republican member of Congress? Remember, she's a member of Congress. And by the way, a rising star in the Democratic Party, if you can believe it. They're all calling her the Black AOC. She's the next Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, except she's an African-American. And you call the President of the United States a piece of you-know-what? A POS? Boy, very classy. You're a very classy woman, Jasmine Crockett. This is what I mean. This is how Democrats react if you challenge their grip on power. And look, and by the way, not one Democrat has condemned her for calling Trump a POS. Not one. Not one has come out and said, hey, come on, you're a member of Congress, for God's sake. Carry yourself with a little bit more class and decorum. Nothing. Not one member of the media has condemned her. Liberal media has condemned her for this. No, they love it. They love it. The more she calls him a piece of you-know-what, a POS, the more they get their thrills off of it. You see, this is now Trump's unforgivable sin. He's now changing and transforming the Republican Party, not just into a workers' party. And by the way, and the Democrats now are clearly the party of the elites, of the wealthy, of the millionaires and billionaires, and of course of the illegals. So it's both extremes. Okay, the bottom and the top. And the Republicans under Trump are the party of the big middle. Upper middle class, working class, and the middle of the country. So both the economic middle and literally the geographic the geographical middle. And they don't know what to do. They're freaking out. But what he's also done is he's transformed it now for the first time in over 40 years. This is a party now that's going to start to fight. This is a party now that's going to, as I said, the days of playing badminton while the Democrats play smash mouth football, at least under Trump, are over. Trump's a fighter. And he's telling them, they're in the gutter, get into the gutter with them, and you beat them. And you beat them at their own game. So, if they're going to gerrymander New Jersey and New York and California and Illinois and Massachusetts and the state of Washington and Oregon, well, you know what, buddy? We're going to gerrymander Texas. And if need be, Florida. And if need be, North Carolina. In other words, we're not playing to lose anymore. We're playing to win. Agree, disagree. Arthur in Chestnut Hill. Thanks for holding, Arthur, and welcome.
You know, Jeff, this covers all the bases, everything that's wrong in America today. Everything that's been described just didn't start this week. It's been going on for a long time, and we've done nothing about it. The Republican Party doesn't do anything about crap. The last midterm election, on the last day of we lost 2 seats because of harvesting, 2 seats that the Republicans won, and then they showed up with seats because of harvesting, and they lost them. We did, and what did we do about it? Nothing. We just let it happen. And you know what? With everything that we're talking about, how big's our majority in the House?
I'm sorry, Arthur. Could you repeat that? That last line.
With everything that we're talking about, with all the popularity of the Republican Party, and the fact that everybody talks about how bad the Democrats are doing, how big's our majority in the House?
Oh, that's a great point. Yeah, I think it's 3 seats, Arthur. It's razor thin.
It's 3 seats. And 2 of them aren't even Republicans. On top of that, okay, we recognize what the problems are, and we don't do anything about it. They did this in Wisconsin. They've done it in other places, and nothing happens to them. Here in Massachusetts, the eastern, the western part of the state, just about most of it's one district. It's absolute crap, and that's why we have scumbags and lowlifes representing this country, and have become the face of America, like Jasmine Crockett, this lowlife anti-Semite communist in New York. They're going to have. They may have another one in Washington. Look what's running for mayor of Minneapolis. All over the country, I don't recognize anybody that looks and sounds and acts like an American to me. And I get sick and tired of watching what goes on day after day, and why we put up with this media. It's not even the media. Not only don't they report the news, they distort the news. They don't show any of the press conferences because all that's good news, and it goes on and on and on. It is so sickening to see what's happened to this country, and we're not going to recover from it. We'll scream about it today or tomorrow. Here in Massachusetts, every blue state, that's the way every blue state is run. Gerrymandering should be against the law. There should be a national formula for districting the state so that everybody gets proper representation. That was the reason for founding this country, to give us a representative democracy. Well, we don't have that. Okay, and there's nobody in Washington anymore that represents me or you, a white heterosexual person who has a family. You're not safe to walk the streets anymore. You're not safe to go out and get a sandwich. You're not safe to go hiking. You're not safe anywhere. And they get away with it over and over again. This is a country that doesn't have ethics anymore. It doesn't have morals anymore, and we take it up the keister. It's disgusting what's going on in this country today. This media should be gone. They should have lost their license a long time ago. Thank God NPR is gone. The FCC should turn around and take their licenses away. To be able to have a media is a privilege and a responsibility, and they have turned around and given up their right to vote. And this Democratic Party, if this were the 50s, they'd all be in jail, not for what they've done today, but what they've been doing for the last 50 years.
Arthur, as usual, drop the mic. Arthur, thank you very much for that call. And you can see it now. The media is in a panic. Any loss of power whatsoever, and they're going apoplectic. They're losing their minds. I mean, I could play you cut after cut. Now, literally now, the media is now saying we're living in a dictatorship. This is a dictatorship. Think about the country you're living in right now. According to them, we are now living in an authoritarian fascist dictatorship. This is the garbage they're spewing. Here, I'll just play the cut for you. Here's Rachel Madcow on MS Left BC. Now remember, this is their top host. This is the progressive darling of the media in this country. This is all the libs watch her show. This is where Bill in Sudbury, as an example, this is where he gets all of his sick ideas. So this is the 1 hour. This is their Bible. Okay. Listening to her for 1 hour, spew her garbage. And then they just mindlessly parrot and regurgitate it. Well, this is now what she says. In the wake of everything Trump is accomplishing, and now this Texas redistricting battle. Okay. This battle for a new map. This is it. Because they're thinking we're going to win the midterms. But now, if the Republicans are going to add 5 extra seats, now they say, I don't think we can win the midterms, which means we can't impeach them. And now it's over. It's Hitler. This is Hitler time. Roll cut 14. Mike.
Life in the United States is profoundly changing, is profoundly different than it was even 6 months ago, because we do now live in a country that has an authoritarian leader in charge. We have a consolidating dictatorship in our country. And it sounds melodramatic to say it, I know. But just go with that for a minute, right? Think in melodramatic terms. Think in cinematic terms. Imagine the cartoon-level caricature of what you think a dictatorship looks like. I mean, it's secret police, right? A massive, anonymous, unbadged, literally masked, totally unaccountable internal police force that apparently has infinite funding, but no identifiable leadership, and they act in ways designed to instill maximum fear and use maximum force. I mean, when you imagine an authoritarian country, right, what you imagine is masked secret police breaking people's car windows and snatching people off the streets and out of church parking lots and courtroom hallways and taking them away with no charges, no notice, no paperwork, no explanation.
She's crazy. I'm telling you, this woman's a lunatic. Either she's a paid liar. In other words, just, I'll read whatever you put in front of me, and I just don't care. Give me my $25 million. That's what she makes. She makes $25 million a year. This big socialist, by the way. All about redistributing wealth and, all the millionaires, how dare they? So this $25 million a year hack, okay, this Marxist hack, goes on about, the secret police. She's crazy. She's nuts. Either she's just a paid liar who collects her check and goes home, or if she believes this, wee-oo. I mean, really, wee-oo. And I think the secret police she's referring to is ICE, I think. So detaining and deporting illegal aliens is now the Gestapo. But notice, when Obama deported millions, she was his biggest supporter. So when they deport, and by the way, most of the millions and millions that were sent back were workplace raids. They weren't, violent criminal illegals. They were literally workplace raids. No, notice, under their litter. And by the way, putting illegals in cages, that was Obama's policy. Separating families, that was Obama's policy. Going into these workplaces and making raid after raid and deporting them, that was Obama's policy. I thought he should have done a hell of a lot more. But the point is, he did millions of them. Notice, she was his biggest fan. She was his biggest booster. Then it wasn't fascism descending on America, a consolidating dictatorship. It's the end. No, he was the dear leader. He could do no wrong. He was the great Messiah. He was sent here to politically save us. He was our salvation. Hey, you phony, you fraud, you. But what I'm saying is, this is the garbage, the propaganda, as the Russians would put it. These are the lies, the manipulation that they are now, the hatred that they are spewing on a nightly basis, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And that's why now these Texas Democrats, these rogue Democrats, are now being lionized as heroes. Because if they can't beat Trump in the midterms, if this Texas, if Texas pulls off this redistricting and gives the Republicans a shot at 5 more seats, they're looking at 4 years of Trump without the ability of them impeaching him even once. And they can't handle it. 617-266-6868 is the number. Couple lines are open if you want to jump on. You can also text the Kuhner Man 70470, 70470. Okay, let me ask all of you. It is the Kuhner Country poll question of the day, sponsored by Mario's. Mario's Quality Roofing, Siding, and Windows. Is Texas being fair in redistricting before the next major census? Because this is the argument the Democrats are making. The Democrats are making the argument that, well, it's unfair that they're doing this before 2030. The last census was in 2020. Then every 10 years you have a new census. So they're saying, well, by doing it now, you're kind of like cheating. This is their argument, that you should wait till 2030. Oh, I'm so sorry. You're right. Forgive me. Okay. 720. My bad. Truth or troll? Take it away, Mike.
And now, America's favorite game show, where you get to decide on the Kuhner Report. This is Truth or Troll.
Today's entry for Truth or Troll comes from President Trump, where in an interview with CNBC, he had some choice words for Democrat Representative Jasmine Crockett and questioned her family tree.
The Democrat Party is self-destructing. I mean, when you have low IQ people like Crockett, I wonder if she's in a relationship to the late, great Davy Crockett, who was a great gentleman. I wonder if she's got any relationship to Davy Crockett, the great old Davy Crockett. But you have this woman Crockett. She's a very low IQ person. Somebody said the other day she's one of the leaders of the party. I said, you got to be kidding. The Democrats are lost. They have Trump derangement syndrome so bad that they can't walk.
So what do you think, Jeff?
Oh,
is he being serious here, or is he just trolling?
Oh, he's
Jasmine
definitely
Crockett?
trolling. No, he's well, remember, he said this. This is after she called him a piece of, POS.
Yeah, that was the next thing I was going to say. She called him a piece of crap the other day, except she didn't use crap.
Exactly. So he's like, yeah, okay. Are you related to Davy Crockett?
The Supreme Court has paved the way for half the stuff that we see that's going on. Listen, Donald Trump is a piece of shit. Okay, we know that. Yes.
No, and he's trolling her good. Because I got in her crazy moonbat mind. Oh my God, Davy Crockett, that's the symbol of white supremacy. That's how the West was won. With the raccoon cap and the whole bit, the gun, the whole bit. So, no, it's a hilarious troll. I think he's clearly trolling Mike. And honestly, I think this is that and calling her low IQ. So anyway, but I don't want to prejudice people. I want to ask all of you, truth or troll? You can vote right now. Do you think Trump is, when he calls her, is she related to Davy Crockett? Is he A, trolling? He's just trying to needle her and get under her skin? Or do you believe he's telling the truth? You can vote on our webpage, WRKO.com/Kuhner, WRKO.com/Kuhner. You can also vote via X. And again, last night I was very active on X. My handle there at the Kuhner Report, KUHN as in National ER. Now, because this is such a freaking high IQ audience, okay, unlike a liberal show, if this was a liberal show, you can only do one thing at one time. Like, it's too much. Like, to do two things, that's just, it's too much. Can you imagine, like, an audience of Bills in Sudbury? Like, no, whoa. Just give one poll question and don't give a second. You give a second and you're overwhelming them. So, but because this is the best audience in the business, let me finish what I started this segment with, the poll question of the day. Okay? So please vote twice. Vote on truth or troll, and also vote on the poll question of the day. So it's sponsored by Mario's Quality Roofing, Siding, and Windows. And the argument the Democrats are making is that this is unfair. It's unfair that they're not waiting, the Texas Republicans are not waiting till 2030. That Governor Greg Abbott, the Texas state legislature, the Republican-controlled Texas state legislature, should not be redistricting in the middle of the decade. I.e. 2025. No. The last census was 2020. You wait till the new census in 2030. And you should only, if you're going to do it, they don't want them to do it. But if you're going to do it, you have to do it in 2030. So they're saying it's unfair. Now, when Illinois recently redistricted Adam Kinzinger out of his seat, and this was just a couple of years after the 2020 census, no problem. When New Jersey redistricts, no problem. They don't wait whether it's 2020. They want to do it in 2022, 2023, 2024. Notice, they can redistrict anytime they want. They don't wait for the census. But when Republicans do it, hey, come on, you can't do it like this. But I want to ask you, this is the core of their argument. So, is Texas being fair in redistricting before the next major census, which will be in 2030? So, A, yes. B, no. You can vote on our webpage, wrko.com/Kuhner, wrko.com/Kuhner. And as always, you can vote on X. My handle there, all one word, at the Kuhner Report, Kuh, N as in national ER. I am an a yes, all the way on this. All the way on this. I think other red states should do the exact same thing. Now, by the way, this is why the Democrats obsess over illegal aliens. Even if they don't vote, and of course many of them do, but let that go. Even if they don't vote, the census counts them as population, which means they get these blue states that they pack them in, they load them into these blue states like California, Illinois, they get extra congressional seats. Okay, all-out political war, there's no other way to put it, is now broken out over Texas's decision to redistrict and to create a new political map that will affect Texas's representation in Congress, in particular the House of Representatives. It's called gerrymandering. They have now put out a new political map, a gerrymandered map, that could add up to 5 extra Republican seats in the House. And the Democrats, of course, will lose 5 seats from Texas. Now, with a 3-seat majority, you add an extra 5, that makes it very difficult for Democrats to win the midterms in 2026, to take back the House, where they can then impeach Trump, which is what they want to do, investigate Trump, defund Trump, and essentially paralyze and cripple his presidency. And when I say they are going absolutely berserk, they are going absolutely berserk. Over 50 Texas state lawmakers, led by Texas State House Minority Leader Gene Wu, a moonbat's moonbat, have now literally fled Texas. They're not allowing there to be a quorum. They've abandoned their responsibilities as state legislators, and now they're hiding out in blue states, in hotels in blue states. They're hiding out in Illinois. Apparently some are now in Massachusetts, and now I'm hearing reports they're in other blue states because they're petrified now they could get arrested. So they're on the run. They're on the lam. And it's like a Western, It's like now it's wanted. Not dead or alive, but wanted. There's wanted posters now of these 50 Texas Democrats. Mike on the Cape. Thanks for holding, Mike, and welcome.
Hey, thanks, Jeff. I'm normally doing this with Grace on Saturdays, but, I don't, maybe a lot of your listeners don't understand that the Democrats have been doing this gerrymandering for the last 25 years. And, the Republicans and the independent voters of this country, had to take it. And the Republicans couldn't do anything about it, and that's why a lot of redistricting has been happening in New York, Illinois, California, and they've been gaining all these seats. So now the shoe's on the other foot, and they don't like it because now they're losing power, and of course the Democratic Party is imploding with people like Crockett. I mean, Ann Richards is probably rolling over in her grave. And the other thing is, Jeff, that if people don't know now, after what Elizabeth Warren said the other day with Mandani, the commie there from New York, I mean, this woman showed that Massachusetts is leading the country of a socialist communistic way. I mean, Ed Markey isn't that stupid to make a comment like that. What she did was political suicide, maybe not so much in Massachusetts, because we know Massachusetts is a lost cause now. I mean, you talked about we were a commonwealth. Now we are a socialist little state, and I don't know if there's any coming back from it. And I just sit there and I just say to myself, thank God I'm a resident of New Hampshire. I work in this state, but, Massachusetts is a lost cause. I don't know how she's going to reel back from what she made on that statement and try to get reelected. I mean, where's Stephen Lynch? Where are the Democrats of this state that really care about this state calling into your show and saying, you know what, we do not believe on what Elizabeth Warren just said. We are conservative Democrats. Where are those real conservative Democrats who will call your show and stand up for the trueness of the Democratic Party and what it was back in the 70s and 80s in Massachusetts?
Mike, I'll be brutally honest with you. By the way, your analysis is 1,000% correct. Okay, not 100, 1,000. I'll be honest with you. Not even a conservative Democrat, not even a moderate Democrat, a liberal Democrat is now passé in this state. Really, I'm not saying this for dramatic effect. The Massachusetts Democratic Party, like much of the National Democratic Party, is now a full-blown Marxist communist party. You mentioned Ed Markey. He's a little smarter than Warren. He's not as explicit as Warren. But I'll never forget this. Who bailed out Markey in his primary? It was AOC. He owes everything to AOC. He's even said it. He is an AOC Bernie Sanders Democrat. Warren went to Mandani and kissed his ring. And didn't just kiss his ring. She said, you want government-run grocery stores? I'm for it. You want to abolish private property? I'm for it. You want universal child care? I'm for it. You want, free transportation, free busing, free subway? I'm for it. You want to soak millionaires? By the way, she's going to exempt herself because she's worth north of $40 million, that crook. But she says, soak the millionaires, soak the billionaires, tax them until they bleed. So she is seize the means of production. That's literally what Mamdani says. Defund the entire police. No police. Abolish prisons. The woman is a freaking left-wing lunatic. But they love her in Cambridge. The Boston Globe can't keep endorsing her enough. And she's got the other 9 representatives in Congress, in the House, Kathleen Clark and the whole gang of them, okay, all of these idiots, they love her. They all follow her. So a Deval Patrick Democrat, I'm not kidding, would get destroyed in a Democratic primary. Look, Mike, I don't want to get too inside baseball. There's a primary, as you and I speak right now, for mayor of Seattle. Seattle is as blue a city as Boston or New York or Chicago, okay? They have a Democrat mayor. He's basically Deval Patrick. Forget Menino. Menino is a right-winger compared to these guys. So think Deval Patrick. I know he was governor, but imagine him as the mayor. He's getting primaried. It looks like he lost. He's a Democrat in a very left-wing progressive city. He's a liberal, very liberal Democrat. He just lost to a woman who is the female version of Mandani. It's still too close to call, but the challenger is up by about 3,000 votes, and they don't see the mayor picking up enough votes to catch her. So they haven't quite called it yet, but watch, this will be big news in about 3 hours. So what I'm saying is the Mamdani effect, you're seeing it now. It's toppling city after city, blue state after blue state. It is now AOC's party. It is Bernie's party. It is Mamdani's party. And these are revolutionary socialists, revolutionary communists. And in a way, it's terrifying because I'm telling you, everything they touch, they destroy. But the problem is this country is not a socialist country, quite the opposite. So they're becoming more radical, which will turn them into a minority rump. Yes, they'll dominate Boston. They'll dominate Massachusetts. They'll get some places up in New England, in the Northeast. They'll do well in California. They'll still have a stranglehold on Illinois. But they're going to lose 35 to 40 states. That's why, I don't know if you saw the big comment yesterday, Mike. Trump came out and said, basically, my heir apparent is J.D. Vance. He's already cleared the field for J.D. in 2028. And then he said, and I think Rubio would be great to team up with him. He's basically saying, I want J.D. and Rubio in 2028, J.D. for 8 years, and then Rubio after him for 8 years. So Trump is looking at the radicalization, the communization of the Democratic Party. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, this is going to surprise people. But if we had any kind of fair representation, in other words, political districts, congressional districts, political maps, were drawn in any kind of a fair, orderly, normal way based on a formula, a national formula, Republicans would have about a 28 to 30 seat majority. Let me repeat that. Republicans would have a 28 to 30 seat majority in the House of Representatives. Instead, it's 3. It's razor thin. Now, and the reason, gerrymandering. Now, you look at, that's why Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick of Texas is a million, not forget 1,000%. He's 1,000,000% correct. You look at the gerrymandering, California, Illinois, New York, New Jersey, Washington State, Maryland, and yes, the People's Republic of Massachusetts. You're looking at easy 25 congressional seats, and I'm being conservative. I'm going on the low, not on the high side. 25 seats that should easily be in Republican hands. Now, I got a great text from a good friend of mine. I won't mention his name, but he says, Jeff, talk about gerrymandering. Congressman Steve Lynch's district is so gerrymandered that you get dizzy looking at the boundaries. Well, here, okay, forget you're right about Steve Lynch. Let me take my district, okay? Just here, to show you how they rig it. I'm in the 4th congressional district, okay, Norfolk County. Okay, wait, that's, Rentham, right? Foxborough, Rentham, Mansfield. That's my neck of the woods. Now, for those of you outside of the state, you're going to say, what's Kuhner man talking about? I am about 5 to 10 minutes from the Rhode Island border. That's where I live. I'm in the southern part of the state. You want to see how my congressional district is so gerrymandered? It takes up the southern part of the state, right along Rhode Island. And then listen to this. It goes all the way north. I've never seen a district like this. It goes to Brockton. It goes all the way into the suburbs right around Boston. Part of Wellesley, not all of it, but part of Wellesley. It's got Newton. It's got Brookline. I mean, I'm like, I've never seen a district like this. And it's got Fall River. You're right. I mean, I'm like, this is incredible. Yeah, Sandy, you and I mean, what are we, an hour and a half apart from each other by car? Yeah, that was Barney Frank's old district. Yeah, you're completely right. Literally, Sandy, who lives in Brookline, she lives a good 90 minutes by car, 90 minutes away from me, is in my district. You look at like, how do you Democrats pull it off? Now, again, ballpark, okay? It depends on the Republican candidate. It depends on the year. It depends on the election. But basically, yes, Massachusetts is blue, no question. But it's 60-40. Sometimes it's maybe 64-36, 62-38, whatever, 59-41. But basically, it's 60-40. There are we send nine members of Congress to the House of Representatives and obviously 2 senators. It's 11-0. In the House, it's 9-0. Now, how do you go? I just want to ask all of you, is this fair? 60% vote Democrat, 40% vote Republican. You have a 9-member delegation to the House of Representatives. Okay, congressional delegation. And there's not even one Republican? Literally, just not one? Not even one. Now, if it was fair, as I said earlier, it'd be 6-3. Not 5-4, but let's say 55-45. Yeah, then it's got to be 5-4. But it should at least be 3. You should have at least 3 Republicans or 3 districts that are Republican leaning. We don't even have one. We don't even have one. They're so freaking greedy. It's not even 8-1. It's 9-0. I'm not talking about the Senate. Senate is Markey and Warren. So it's 11-0. I'm talking about just the House. It's 9-0. And they're going crazy because Texas says, no, we're going to redistrict. No, we're going to draw a new political map. We're going to make 5 more Republican-leaning congressional districts. Yeah, we're going to gerrymander too. We're going to gerrymander as well. So you guys can basically steal 25 to 30 seats in all of these blue states, and that's all kosher. That's fine. But when we start to push back just a little bit and say, well, come on now. No, guys, you're rigging it too much in your favor. Suddenly, all hell breaks loose. And then you have that clown, Maura Healey, yesterday. Did you see that press conference? What Trump is doing is a threat to democracy. Inviting Texas Democrats to come to Massachusetts. Saying, how dare they redistrict? How dare they do that? That's all they do in this state. Now, what that means is it's not just dirty pool. It's not just dirty politics. 40% of the people of Massachusetts, taxpayers, law-abiding taxpayers, okay, we're the ones who foot the bill, don't even have a voice in Congress. We don't even have one member of Congress who can somehow articulate our needs and defend our interests. Not even one. But they're going to act like what Trump is doing now. This is a consolidating dictatorship. These people are pathetic. They're so bad. Listen to this. I'm going to go to the calls. Maria and Lowell, I'm coming to you, but just hold on. This is Chuck Todd. Chuck Todd. You want to talk about a Democrat hack. Okay, you want to talk about a mainstream media mouthpiece. Okay? A liberal's liberal. I mean, this guy, you want to talk about a water carrier for the Democratic Party. Even he says, the Democrats gerrymander all the time. But if you're going to go rogue and you're going to flee, the one place you don't go to is Illinois. Of all the blue states, Illinois may actually be the worst when it comes to gerrymandering. Listen now to Chuck Todd. Roll cut 6, Mike.
The part that I think is sort of bad I think it's a bad look for a party that claims to be always trying to be protect the democracy is to hole up in a state that gerrymanders. The state of Illinois. I mean, one of the worst, look, Texas, Florida, Illinois, and Maryland. Those are your 4 giant gerrymandered states. And if you're trying to make a point on gerrymandering, I don't think I'd be going to the state of Illinois as a place to hide.
43 to 45% is what Republicans get in Illinois. Trump got 43%. 17 members they send to the House of Representatives. 17. This is Illinois. Now, it's 57-43. Okay? 14 Democrats, 3 Republicans. 3 Republicans. There should be at least 4 or 5 more Republicans that go to Congress, that go to the House out of Illinois with those kind of numbers. Anything approaching fair representation. It's not just Chicago that's corrupt. The whole freaking state is corrupt. And that's the state they run to? Yeah, it's a bad look. You better believe it, it's a bad look. You phony, you frauds, you. Maria in Lowell. Thanks for holding, Maria, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Maria, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, good.
I just want to say, I raised my wine glass to Abbott. God bless his heart. I am so proud that he did that. These Democrats, I am so sick of them. They need to be taught a lesson. They've been doing this for over 20 years. It's time to turn the tables and give them a taste of their own medicine. It's one of those F around and find out moments. And they're finding out right now. And they should all be charged. I would pay to see Jasmine Crockett with her caterpillar eyelashes in handcuffs. I would pay. I cannot stand that woman. She's a race-baiting buffoon. Everything is about race, color. She does absolutely nothing for her constituents. She does absolutely nothing for nobody. Her IQ, I think, is lower than my special needs son, and that should say a lot. And it's quite amazing. All these people should be charged. They should all be arrested for, what's the word I'm looking for? Taking bribery. And every state that's hiding these people, they should be charged also with something because they're aiding and abetting criminals. They're breaking the law. And if you are hiding somebody that should be getting arrested by breaking the law, you are an accomplice. My understanding, I'm not a lawyer or anything like that, but somewhere along the line, these people are breaking the law too. And they just need to be taught a lesson. I am so done with these people. Every red state should follow suit. I will raise my wine glass to you, my friend. Do the same thing. Play fire with fire. Enough of the bullcrap. Enough of this. They need to be taught a lesson.
Maria, you're completely right. I just want to piggyback off of what you're saying. Maria, what does it say about the Democrats that they're holed up in hotels, they're on the lam, they're on the run, like literally, they're on the run. They're hiding in hotels and motels, afraid of being captured by the FBI or the Marshal Service or, Texas law enforcement and be brought back to do their jobs as state legislators. So to actually vote on legislation that they've been elected to do. And instead, they're hiding out, whether it's Massachusetts. Now I'm hearing they're also in California. Most of them are in Illinois, but now they're fanning out across the country. They're almost like bank robbers, really. Like criminals who now they're on the run from the law. And it's being cheered on by Schumer, by Hakeem Jeffries, by Elizabeth Warren, by Gavin Newsom, by Pritzker. I can play you the cuts. They're like, these people are heroes. They're courageous. Here, let me just play you Pritzker, just very quickly, okay? This is just typical. They're supporting this. They love this. Here's Pritzker on these Democrats who are now fleeing. At the time, they were all in Illinois. Now they're in a couple of other states. Roll cut 8, Mike.
Texas Democrats were left no choice but to leave their home state, block a vote from taking place, and protect their constituents. This is a righteous act of courage.
Maria, it's a righteous act of courage. Well, what say you?
No, it's not. It's a shameful act. First of all, Jeff, let's put it into perspective. If you are employed, you decide, I'm not going. I'm going to go somewhere else because I don't like it the way they're doing this. So I'm going to disappear for a few days. What do you think is going to happen to your job? You think it's going to be there waiting for you? You are fired. Your position is gone. You can kiss it goodbye. The same thing would happen to me. So all their positions should be eliminated. They chose to play that game, and they should receive stupid prizes for their mistakes. They did this on purpose, so they shouldn't have no seats to come back to. They should be fired. They should be let go. Enough of this. And whoever's, courageous, you should be charged with something also. Because if you are hiding these people in your state, if you are encouraging this to your state, then you are harboring a fugitive of the law. You should be charged as an accomplice. Corey Haley, fake Pocahontas, they should have no leg to stand on. They should be ashamed of themselves because over and over again it shows that they don't care about Massachusetts. They don't care about the people that voted for them. They only care about illegals. They're communists to the core. These people should be let go of their positions. They come back, they get arrested, but you have no position to come back to at all.
Oh, amen. Maria, amen. Amen. Great call, as always. Great call. I agree with her completely. 617-266-6868. Really, let me ask all of you. You just pack up and leave. You're at work and you go, to hell with this. And you just leave. For whatever reason. You just leave. You just get up, you pack up, you just go. How long are you going to have your job? I'm not saying you ask for vacation time or a personal day. I'm saying you just get up and you leave. How long would you I'm talking to, all of you listening, you'd be what? How long would you have a job? If I just say, I'm just walking off the air. I just walk off the air. And Kuhner, what's going on? I'm gone. I'm going to hole up in a hotel. I'm going to go to upstate New York or whatever. I'm just going to stay in a hotel. Well, that's it. It's over. Don't bother coming back. You're gone. That's Abbott's argument. And it's going to be the state Supreme Court's argument in Texas, I'm telling you, come Friday. If they don't get back there, they're going to vacate. Their seats are going to be vacated. And, okay, it's your funeral. I mean, I don't know what else to tell these people. Mark in Medford. Thanks for holding, Mark, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. How are you today?
Very good. How are you, Mark?
I'm doing okay. So, Jeff, first off, I just want to say, and I hope the Democrats are listening to this right now, don't you dare lecture me about being unfair, and it's kind of like cheating after what you did the last 8 years. I don't want to hear anything about that, not from those people, because they mastered it, Jeff, okay? Now, I don't understand why these Texas Dems are doing this. This is a waste of time. It's useless. It's pointless. The redistricting is going to happen. They're just doing this to bust the onions. You know what that means, Jeff? Break the balls, okay? That's why they're doing this. The same reason why in D.C. they're not letting Trump finish his appointees. It's the same thing. Delay. Let's try and screw Trump up any way we can. Well, you know what? It's not going to work. And yes, I think it is fair. And yes, I think Governor Abbott, by noon on Friday, if they're not back at their job, they are fired. Fired, Jeff. Okay? And, it's like dealing with a child, Jeff, with these Democrats lately. It's like if the child doesn't get what the child wants, it pulls a temper tantrum. It's freaking embarrassing, Jeff. How old are these people? And as far as that woman Crockett, okay, Jeff, this is a congresswoman of the United States of America calling the president a POS. Do you know what Crockett is, Jeff? And I'm going to keep this as clean as possible. And I hope it doesn't get me banned from the radio. But it rhymes with something you do in football on 4th down when you don't have a chance to get the first.
This blowing up in the Democrats' face. I mean, look, even people who don't like Trump, to hear a member of Congress just go berserk and start calling him a piece of, I can't say it, a piece of crap, a POS, a piece of, what, to be that low class, to be that uncivilized. I mean, this is not some, hood. These aren't, we're not talking about gang members who are, street fighting or something like that. I mean, you're talking about not just a member of Congress. She wanted a couple of top spots on these key committees. They're talking about her as the rising star and the growing face of the Democratic Party. Their words, not mine. She's a quote-unquote superstar. And this is how you talk about. So is this now going to be the way we talk about our president in the future? Like, really, look, I couldn't stand Joe Biden. Please don't get me wrong. But, would I want, say, I don't know, John Thune or Mike Johnson or whoever to just, in front of everybody say, oh, yeah, that piece of, that POS. Or, soon it's going to be, oh, that mother effer. Like, I'm sorry, I don't want politicians, members of Congress, talking about each other and about the president like that. Because we're going to have a civil war. I mean, there has to be a certain amount of, we could insult them, we and the people, or on radio or whatever. That's something different. But I'm talking about, look, I'm sorry, if you're in Congress or you're in the White House or you're in a position of real authority and power, you should behave accordingly. Mark, I don't know. Am I missing something? Am I wrong?
Jeff, like you say, you're 1,000% right. It is backfiring on them. Let's put the shoe on the other foot for a second, Jeff. Okay? I'll give you one better. Forget Joe the vegetable. What if Donald Trump, when he was running against Kamala Harris, says, you know what? I think Kamala Harris is a pot-smoking, beer-guzzling call girl. What would they do to Donald Trump?
Oh, they would crucify him.
Thank you. Now, this woman actually used the word piece of, what?
Yep.
I mean, that's so disrespectful. You know what, Jeff? She is nothing but a gangster hoe from the hood. That's all she is.
Mark, thank you very much for that call. Mike, can you do me a favor? Because we have a lot of new listeners that come in at about 8 o'clock. Can you just play the front part of cut 13? We don't need the whole of it. Just the part where she calls Trump a and by the way, one of the reasons why I'm not excusing it, I'm just explaining why she's going, absolutely crazy. Okay, why she's lost her mind is because in this redistricting, she's now going to be redistricted out of a seat. Now she doesn't, what's she going to do with her life? Roll cut 13, Mike.
The Supreme Court has paved the way for half the stuff that we see that's going on. Listen, Donald Trump is a piece of shit. Okay, we know that.
Now, okay, that's you tell me. That's the new level of discourse from the Democrats. So we're going to go into the gutter now like this. This is now how this is again TDS on steroids. Now, just a couple years ago, don't take my word for it. Look it up. 617-266-6868 is the number. You can also text the Kuhner Man, 70470, and this is an absolute doozy from 603. Jeff, so how can't this be seen as a dereliction of duty? Don't all of these state representatives pledge during the taking of their oath to office to faithfully carry out the full duties of their office? Yes. I would call this abandonment and dereliction of duty, Jeff. Wouldn't you? Yes, again. I don't care how you look at it. You can look at it from a legal point of view, a political point of view, an ethical point of view, a moral point of view, a constitutional point of view. Take your pick. I've never seen anything like this. You don't like the way the majority that controls in this case, the State House, is going to vote. And so what you end up doing is you just flee. You just leave and prevent the state legislature from even being able to operate because there's no quorum, because the minority leader has fled with basically a good chunk of his entire political party. And they're hiding out in hotels, not even in Illinois now. Now they're all over the country. 617-266-6868. John in Dunstable. Thanks for holding, John, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff. Thanks for taking the call.
My pleasure, John.
Crockett doesn't have anything to worry about, Jeff. She'll just come to Massachusetts with the fake Indian, Presley, and the rest of the communist losers that we have in this state and just work from here.
John, I need you to pick up the phone, John. You're on speaker. We could barely hear you. But for those of you that didn't hear him, Jasmine Crockett, he says, has nothing to worry about. She can just come over to Massachusetts, put on a fake Indian accent, or he means Native American Indian, or just claim Native American heritage like Chief Fullable and Shazam. Voila. A political star is born. John, how do you think this ends? You think this ends with the Democrats capitulating?
I think they're in trouble, Jeff. And I'm going to tell you why, Jeff. The Bankers and Tradesmen, the last edition that comes out, it talks about all 50 states. And Massachusetts was number 4 out of all 50 states. It's number 28 now and climbing, Jeff. It also talks about, where the economy's going here, and it's not looking good. When you drive home, Jeff, and just think about what I'm saying, when you drove back and forth going through Boston, you always saw skyscraper in the skyline. You always saw cranes and whatnot. Just drive. When you drive home today, just look. You're not going to see any cranes, Jeff. And they also talked about, Jeff, that there's huge buildings in Boston that are about to be foreclosed on. This state is in big trouble, Jeff, and all thanks to the morons in the state that voted for all these communist losers that we have running the state that have made millions upon millions of dollars off of our backs, and this state is going down, Jeff. It's scary. Take a look at the Bankers and Tradesmen, the last edition. It'll knock your socks off.
Oh, listen, John, you are so on point. It's not even funny. And, and you're right. But, the Wall Street Journal, Investors Business Daily, Barron's, the Financial Times, which is, by the way, a European publication, is based in London. And they're all saying that Massachusetts' economy is going down. Taxes are way too high. They're over-regulating. They're harassing business. Taxpayers, we're like New York State, very similar. Taxpayers now are fleeing. And you see, what these moonbats don't understand is they hate us. Clearly they hate us. But they don't realize they need us. Because you break your back, you pay taxes. I break my back, I pay taxes. Most of this audience breaks their back, or if they're no longer breaking their back, they have broken their back. They're retired, but they've broken their back for 40, 50, 60 years. You can't afford to lose us. We're the backbone of any economy. And look, even if you want to put all these illegals on welfare, and you want to, the hacks and the cronies and the, as you put it, these members of Congress making millions of dollars and putting everybody's niece and nephew on the payroll and on, you need us. We're the people that generate the tax money and the tax revenue. We leave, you have no tax base. You have no tax base, everything collapses. Now, I can tell you this, I have noticed the construction has stopped. There are no more cranes. They're not adding to the skyline, which is very bad. But even worse than that, John, look, the roads are atrocious. I mean, they were never good. I'm not saying they were good. But again, I go back to what I said yesterday, not to be a broken record. I compare life in Massachusetts to what it was even 10 years ago. Crime is way up. Boston's a much more unsafe city. There are a hell of a lot more illegals now than there were 10 years ago. And the roads they suck. They were never good, but now they really suck. And I got to say something else. It was a little bit funny at first. They do a project, say a road, they're doing road work, and it's always the same pothole. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, just very, very quick, because I want to go back to the phone lines. But, I thought John and Dunstable made some really good points. Now, look, you know me, I can't stand Ted Kennedy, okay, the late Ted Kennedy. He was a murderer. I think he killed Mary Joan Kopechne. I think there's no question about it. He left her to die and drown. I could go on and on. But look, say what you want about the so-called last lion of the Senate. He brought home the bacon. Was it pork? Yes. Was it corrupt? Yes. But at least there's something to show for it. In other words, bridges, roads, tunnels, hospitals, schools. Of course, everything had to be named after the guy. But my point is, these old-style corrupt Democrats, Robert Byrd in West Virginia was another one of them. Okay, that former member of the KKK. At least they brought home the bacon. So you could say, well, there's something. Like, hey, the roads are great. Why? Because, he's getting all this money from Congress. Look at his school. We don't really need it, but here, look at this school. That bridge is constantly being renovated because the money just keeps pouring in. What is remarkable, so in other words, I could understand, not that I agree with, but I could say, well, I could see why a person would vote for a Ted Kennedy or a Robert Byrd or one of these old school, old guard Democrats. What the hell is Elizabeth Warren? Seriously. What has Elizabeth Warren done for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts? What has Marcula? I want to suck your blood. I want to take your money. Okay, what is Ed Markey, really? What has this clown done for Massachusetts? He doesn't even come here. He's holed up in his mansion in the suburbs of Washington, Maryland, in the suburbs of Washington, D.C., and in Chevy Chase. Literally in a multi-million-dollar mansion. By the way, how did you get the money on a congressman's salary to pay for that mansion? Notice, nobody in the media even asked that question here. Okay? But let that go. What has Markey done? Nothing. What has Warren done? Nothing. Bridges are now underfunded in this state. They can't even bring back money for the bridges. They don't even bring back money for the roads. There's nothing. Instead, all they do is fundraise. If they do anything, is they fundraise for the Democratic Party, augment their profile, and push these far-left causes because they all want to be quote-unquote political celebrities in Washington, D.C. Oh, and of course, book deals. Book deals and speeches where they're paid $50,000 to $100,000 a pop. Okay, basically it's a form of influence peddling. So line their pockets. So outside of getting rich and getting on media and getting their face in front of a camera, what have they done? In any kind of, what can somebody name me literally one thing that Elizabeth Warren has done for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts? One. Where you say, Jeff, Jeff, hey, we needed that fire department, she delivered. Jeff, hey, the Bourne Bridge. We needed money for the Bourne Bridge. Yeah, she got the money. Nothing. Literally nothing. And then on the House side, oh my God, they're even worse. You run down the whole list. I don't know who's worse. Auchincloss or Kathleen Clark, that crazy moonbat, who's basically all she does is serve Hakeem Jeffries. That's all she's good for. That's all. To shine his shoes. That's all she's good for. So what I'm saying is, it's not even where you say, look, honestly, in places like Illinois, yes, it's incredibly corrupt, but there are shovel-ready jobs. There's something. They're bringing back something. Okay, it may be full of pork, but they're getting something. Even in New York State, you can say whatever you want about some of them up there. Kirsten Gillibrand or whatever. But hey, there's some bacon they bring back home. Okay, at least it's something, for God's sake. No, this pure ideological communism. I've never seen anything like this. Ask any Democrat. I dare you. Say, look, just literally one. What is one thing? Okay, for Native Americans in not there's not many of them, but the few Native American Indians that are here, has she gotten them a casino? I don't know. Has she got them a drug rehabilitation center on some of these reservations? Has she done anything for the Native American population here in Massachusetts? I mean, she is a Native American, according to her, after all. Nothing. Worse than useless. So why do you vote for her? I mean, you're not even voting your self-interest. 617-266-6868. And I mean it to all the Democrats. I mean, I'm like saying the sky is blue. Don't even try to find one good thing that they've done, because they haven't. Markey's done nothing, and Warren has done nothing. Lynn in Pepperell. Thanks for holding, Lynn, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi, Lynn.
I just wanted to say that the liberals are masters of hypocrisy and gaslighting. Just like when Obama deports 5 million people, it's no big deal. But when Trump does it, oh my God, it's a travesty. They are amazing at making themselves look like a victim when it's the exact same things that they do. I live in the 1st Middlesex District, and right before the 2022 elections, they gerrymandered our district, splitting up towns even as far as that, so that conservative areas of towns were put with more red districts. And so it turned our district, which was typically a purple, it used to be a red district. Shealing Harrington was a Republican who had the seat. And then it flipped in 2022 by 7 votes, Democrat. And then this past election, we couldn't get it back, even though, and by the way, I was running for state rep. We beat Trump actually in this district, but we just couldn't get it back because of the gerrymandering. So I just wanted to say that I'm amazed every time when they're outraged at the things they do on a constant basis. And Massachusetts is one of the worst.
Well, that's the thing. It's their hypocrisy. And it's so obvious, and it's so blatant, and it's so in your face. That's why I think people are just laughing at them. And, Lynn, just to bounce off of what you're saying, because as I like to say, you're not 100, you're 1,000% correct. But just to bounce off of what you're saying, if they didn't gerrymander in this state, you would see a lot more Republican office holders. There's no question. And this is what I don't get. Where is the mass GOP? How come I have to make the argument? I'm not running for office, right? I'm just a talk show host. Why do I have to make the argument that it's a 60-40 state, basically, and yet you look at that representation in the House? I know you're talking state rep, but in the representation in the House, in Congress, is 9-0. Why can't Amy Carnevale make that argument? Why can't she make a stink about it? Why can't these clowns on the mass GOP who support her, why can't they go out there and say, you know what, this is blatantly unfair? This is taxation without representation. 40% of the taxpayers in Massachusetts vote Republican. And yet we can't even get one seat in Congress? Not even one? And then you're right, when it comes to the state legislature, it's even more disgusting. We hardly have any seats in the state Senate. And in the state House, what is it, 2025? It's a pittance. Because again, they so gerrymander it. Yet you have a mass GOP that refuses to do anything. You know why, Lynn? Because they're in the pocket of lobbyists. They are controlled opposition. They are paid to lose. And Lynn, I don't know if you saw that big scandal. What was this? Maybe a couple of weeks ago. There was a secret recording of a top official on the mass GOP, very close to Amy Carnevale. The way they spoke about Trump voters, people like you, people like me, people like this audience, that we shouldn't say a word. All we're good for is to hold up a sign. Okay, the Democrats now are vowing all-out political retaliation, all-out political war. If Texas goes through with their intended plan to draw a new political map, to redraw the map, the House map for Congress through gerrymandering, Gavin Newsom now is claiming that he supports a quote-unquote independent redistricting commission. Right. And he now says, no. If Texas gerrymanders, we in California will gerrymander. Roll cut 9A, Mike.
They've triggered this, but the ultimate determination will be by the people of the state of California. We will offer them the opportunity to make judgment for themselves. Again, only if Texas moves forward. We would maintain the framework of the Independent Redistricting Commission that I support, that I believe in. We would just allow for this mid-census redistricting to occur just for congressional maps in 26, 28, and 30. It would also state, as I said a moment ago, and I'll reinforce, that we believe it should be a national model, independent national redistricting, and it would revert back to its original form. But it's done in response to the existential realities that we're now facing.
Yeah, existential now. It's an existential threat. So basically, blah, 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 but the long and short of it is, if Texas goes for gerrymandering, in other words, you think you can add 4 or 5 seats to the Republican majority? Well, you know what? We're going to gerrymander the hell out of California, and we're going to negate those 4 or 5 seats. Now, Pritzker is weighing in, the governor of Illinois. Now, I don't know how much more you can gerrymander Illinois. I really don't. Trump won 44% of the vote, and the representation in the House is still, out of 17 members, 14 Democrat, 3 Republican. But Pritzker says that they're going to gerrymander Illinois even more to maybe squeeze 1 or 2 more Democrat House seats. Again, I don't know how they're going to do it, but Pritzker says they're going to do it. Now, listen to Newsom. Newsom says they're going to go to war. This is fighting fire with fire. California will match Texas, and they will be followed by Illinois, New York, New Jersey. This is going to be an all-out bloodbath. Roll cut 9B, Mike.
They've triggered this response, and we're not going to roll over. And we're going to fight fire with fire, but we're going to do so not just punching with the weight of the fourth largest economy, the most populous state in our union, the size of 21 state populations combined, but we also will punch above our weight in terms of the impact of what we're doing. And I think that should be absorbed by those in the Texas delegation.
So basically, he's openly threatening. He's openly threatening Texas. We will politically go nuclear. Now, listen to Hochul. The rhetoric there is even higher. It's even more violent and more intense and more apocalyptic. Listen now to Hochul. Now, again, I just want to repeat this. I know I've said it many times, but California's been gerrymandering like crazy for 25 years. Like, I'm looking at the Illinois, same thing. New York, same thing. I'm like, this is like taking blood from a stone. I don't know how much more you can gerrymander. But anyway, listen now to Hochul. They're now saying this is war. Like war, as in war. Roll cut 10. Mike.
I thank them so much for making this journey. You are on the right side of history. And you're not alone. We are in solidarity with each and every one of you and your colleagues in another state hosted by my great friend J.B. Pritzker, who welcome you as well. As I said, history will judge us on how we respond to this moment. But here in New York, we will not stand on the sidelines with the timid souls on the sidelines who don't care, will not invest their heart and soul into this battle. This is a war. We are at war. And that's why the gloves are off, and I say, bring it on.
We're at war? Because Texas wants to add 5 more seats? After you've added 25 to 30 seats over the last 20 years? Notice, you see, I'll tell you what's really going on. They see their dream of a blue wave in 2026 now evaporating. They see the prospect of impeaching Trump and crippling his presidency and defunding ICE and defunding much of his administration. They see that now evaporating. And they are literally losing their minds. Now, listen to her. This is how they're incompetent, but again, now we're in a dictatorship. This is now, again, so you got the media saying we're in a dictatorship. Listen now to Hochul. She can't get the word out, authoritarianism, but this is what she's trying to say. Roll cut 10A. Mike.
I cannot stand by and let this happen while Donald Trump and his co-conspirator, Greg Abbott, erode our democracy and drag us toward authoritarianism.
Yeah, okay, well, she got it out. She spit it out. So, you see, now, you and I look at this and say these people are a joke, which they are. But let me tell you what the problem is. The problem is you got a lot of Bills in Sudbury. You've got a lot of hardcore moonbats, a lot of Democrats who swallow this hook, line, and sinker. I mean, they're buying this lock, stock, and barrel. And so, oh, yeah, it's a dictatorship. Oh, yeah, it's authoritarianism. Oh, yeah. They're trying now to incite violence on the streets. That's what they're really trying to do. They're basically now saying this is wink, wink. This is not a dog whistle. This is a bullhorn. What they're telling their supporters is if Texas will go and add 5 more seats for the Republicans, meaning we can't take back the House, and that means Trump will have 4 years of uninterrupted power. We're telling Texas, we're telling Trump, we're telling all the red states, this is going to be George Floyd 2.0. This is going to be the Summer of Love 2.0. Listen now to Hakeem Jeffries, okay, House Minority Leader, on MS Left BC. Here it is. Roll cut 11. Mike.
Governor Hochul, we just played there calling this redistricting fight a war, saying this is a war. We are at war. Is that how you see it?
Democrats are going to respond from coast to coast
and at all points in between to this effort to steal the midterm elections. Republicans are on the run right now. Donald Trump is deeply unpopular. Their one big ugly bill, which is now law, is deeply unpopular. It rips away health care from millions of Americans, steals food from the mouths of children. All of this is being done in terms of hurting everyday Americans so they can reward their billionaire donors. And they don't want to face the voters in a free and fair election. Perhaps Donald Trump and Mike Johnson and Republicans in Washington and in Texas thought that Democrats would not respond. We're going to respond forcefully, aggressively, and relentlessly.
So now it's stealing the midterm elections. So I want you to think about this. We're in August 2025. What are we? 13, 14? We're 15 months away. Okay, 14, 15 months away from the midterms. 14, 15 months away. Over a year away. Hell, we're not even in 2026 yet. And already now, the Republicans and Trump are stealing the midterms. Why? Well, they're going to gerrymander Texas. Now, what that shows to me, I think there's no question now. Now, by the way, who are the election deniers now? They haven't even cast a freaking ballot yet. And they're already saying, it's stolen. It's stolen. They're laying the groundwork for violence on the streets. They can't beat Trump at the ballot box. They know that. They know the country is turning on them. They know that. They know Trump's policies are incredibly popular. So what do they have left? All they have left is political terrorism and violence. So, taking food out of the mouths of children, that's not working. Pushing granny off a cliff, that's not working. There's going to be a massive recession. The stock market's going to crash. Remember all those predictions? That's not working. So the hysteria and the fear-mongering is not working. So now, he's a dictator. He's going to steal the election. Now it's, we're going to take this to the streets. Listen now to Jasmine Crockett. She always says, she's got a big mouth. She always says what they're saying in private, she makes sure everybody knows in public. You want to know what the Democrats are really planning? Roll cut 34. Mike.
And I'm sorry, but instead, we are not only going to punch you back, but we are going to knock you out. So I fully anticipate that we are going to take control of the United States House because that is what the American people want. And that is why Donald Trump and his regime is so afraid.
They're going to knock us out. So the rhetoric is getting incendiary. The rhetoric is getting irresponsible. It's getting reckless and it's getting dangerous. So remember now, how many years? Insurrectionists? Election deniers? Now all of a sudden, if you got to steal an election, you steal an election. All of a sudden now, don't respect the results of the midterms in 2026. And hey, if we got to go to the streets, if you want the mother of all insurrections, we're going to make 2020, the so-called summer of love, look like a Sunday picnic. This is because they are losing their grip on power. And this is their only response. 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree. Mike, who do you want me to go to next? Gary in Levitt. Thanks for holding, Gary, and welcome.
Hello there, Jeff. I love you in a non-sexual way.
Gary, what do you make of this? Well, Texas decides to gerrymander, and Gary, the sky is falling.
Well, I'll tell you what. I've written a little bit of a ditty for Jasmine Crockett this morning, and I wanted to sing it for you, Jeff.
Go ahead, Gary.
All right. Of course, you talked about Davy Crockett, but this is Jasmine Crockett. And it goes something like this. Born in the swamp of the Democratic side, Lie with no luck, just ego and pride. She's selling on TikTok, makes no sense. I'm in her head by way of free rent. Jasmine Crockett, queen of the soundbite crew, talking about the wigs and throwing a fit. Can't pass a bill, she sure likes to sit. Woke and confused with a mic in hand, saying things that no one understands. Jasmine Crockett, wild on the house floor too.
Gary, bravo! I gotta tell you, bravo! It's funny you should. I'm so happy you called in and did this jingle, because Sandy and I in the pre-show meeting we're talking about how I go, because Mike said, who's Davy Crockett? And I'm like, Mike's 25, 26. And I'm like, you don't know Davy Crockett? He goes like, no. I'm like, oh, that's right. You didn't grow up watching the show the way Sandy and I did. I used to watch it every Saturday morning. I'll never forget that song, Davy Crockett. He came from the old frontier. And that song is going to be with me till the day I die. You did a perfect job, my friend. Gary, to me, you're the candidate now for Caller of the Week. Genius. Absolute genius. Gary, thank you very much for that call. 617-266-6868. Am I the only one that is only Sandy and I? Like, do you remember watching Davy Crockett? Saturday morning? No. I used to love that show. I used to, there were Saturday cartoons and then obviously Davy Crockett. And I forget, Sandy, who was the actor that played Davy Crockett? Fess Parker. He was great as Davy Crockett. And, the raccoon hat, the long gun, the whole bit. It was great. Just great old-fashioned Americana. Dan in Dartmouth. Thanks for holding, Dan, and welcome.
Hey, good morning, Jeff.
Dan, how are you?
Oh, good, but that's going to be hard to follow up after Gary's little ditty there. That was amazing.
Dan, did you ever watch Davy Crockett?
All the time,
yeah,
Jeff.
All right,
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm not the only one.
Hey, Jeff, so what's going on is the grand facade is coming down. The Democrats have been pushing the grand facade for decades now, and they know that the game is up. Here's the problem, is that we've been in the room with a microphone. And we have to have representation, right? That's what the Republic is all about. We haven't had representation to really reflect the overall voters and how we, actually want to have this country develop and actually, make laws. We haven't had a voice for many years. Now we have a voice. And we just want to even the playing field because we've been the majority for a long time. Let's just put that on the table. We haven't had a voice. And they're also very concerned, Jeff, that once these lawsuits and, what's going to happen with the grand jury, impanelment, the Epstein files, what's then also going to come out with Russia collusion, they're going to start losing other seats as well. And then the media is going to come down in that whole facade because the media is complicit in the entire Russia collusion. They're not going to have any microphone in the room any longer. They're going to be a minority left been for years, except they've been pushing the grand facade, and the media is going along with it. Once the media comes down, once those pillars come down, they are exposed, and they are going to be minorities for a very long time, and they understand that.
Well, Dan, I think you really put your finger on it. You really put your finger on it. And look, you can see what's happening. You've got a grand jury now has been impaneled to investigate Brennan and Clapper and Comey and Obama and Hillary for Russiagate. The DOJ, I don't know if you saw this huge story yesterday, is now asking Tulsi Gabbard for even more information, more sensitive classified documents in the Russia collusion hoax. By the way, the Clintons are in big trouble and they know it. You've got now Comer is subpoenaing Bill and Hillary Clinton, among others, over their role in Epstein and what Bill Clinton was doing on Epstein Island. The walls are starting to close in. You can see that. And the media, I've never seen them in this kind of panic before. They know that their role in Russiagate is now going to be thoroughly exposed. And they'll never recover, never, for what they did. So you're right, Dan. They're losing their grip on institutional power. They're losing their grip on the deep state, on the CIA, on the FBI, on the DOJ. They're slowly now seeing they're losing power in the media. And Trump is now on the offense. And that's why they're ultimately what you're seeing is, look, David Horowitz famously said this, and the late David Horowitz, he passed away recently, brilliant conservative thinker, to me, one of the best conservative writers of the last 40 to 50 years. Horowitz famously said, you scratch a Democrat or you scratch a liberal, same thing, and a totalitarian comes out. In other words, if you really press the Democratic Party or a liberal, they are fundamentally totalitarian at heart. That's what you're seeing now. He's been completely vindicated. Look at their response. Their response is not to make amends, clean house, and get back to the center. No. Their response is, we're going to burn the whole damn country down. If need be, we're going to burn the whole damn thing. In other words, you're going to see blood. We want blood. So their resort is violence. Now, what was the one thing they always said about us, Dan? Ad nauseum. We were the insurrectionists. We were the ones who were a threat to democracy. We were the ones that were the enemy of the people and the enemy of the republic. That's all they kept saying for year after year after year after year. We were the fascists. Who are the fascists? They are. Who are the ones talking now about street violence and political terrorism and literally tearing this country apart? It's them. So they're being exposed for who and what they truly are. And you're right. It's an ugly, ugly thing. And Dan, my prediction, I could be wrong. The more radical, the more desperate, the more extreme, the more incendiary, the more violent they become, the more unpopular they become. What we're watching now is the self-destruction of the Democratic Party. Dan, final word to you. Is the Kuhner man wrong?
No, the Kuhner man is right, as always. And here's the thing, Jeff. They boxed themselves in with their lies. They have to burn them because if they start exposing what's been happening over the past 2-3 decades, they're going to be essentially complicit. And they are complicit. So they need to go down with the ship. And they want us to all go down with us. That's going to be the challenge of the Trump administration, to do this in a way that they can bring it back to Obama in the media, and bang, it's game over. And then we're going to have essentially possibly 2 decades of, Republican rule.
You're right. No, you're right. No, really, Dan, you nailed it. You absolutely nailed it. And Trump senses that. And to show you, we're looking at possibly now 20 years of Republican MAGA rule. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, here it is. This is the cut now everybody is talking about. Trump clearly now believes the Republicans under his leadership, his vision, the MAGA philosophy could be on the brink of becoming the majority party, really running the table for the next 4-5 presidential elections. In other words, 20 years of uninterrupted MAGA rule. Listen now to Trump. He's asked, who do you see as your heir apparent, both for you and the MAGA movement? Roll cut 20. It's with Peter Doocy, by the way, on Fox. Roll cut 25. Mike.
You said this morning that you probably won't be running for a third term. This weekend, Secretary of State Rubio said that he thought J.D. Vance would be a great nominee. You could clear the entire Republican field right now. Do you agree that the heir apparent to MAGA is J.D. Vance?
Well, I think most likely, in all fairness, he's the vice president. I think Marco is also somebody that maybe would get together with J.D. in some form. I also think we have incredible people, some of the people on the stage right here. So it's too early, obviously, to talk about it, but certainly he's doing a great job, and he would be probably favored at this point.
So, it's very early, obviously. It's, we're 2025. The next presidential election is 2028. But what that shows to me are two things. And then I want to go to you, the great audience of Kuhner Country, and tell me if you agree or disagree. Number one, it shows very importantly that Trump is extremely confident that this presidency has legs, that the legacy of this administration will go on beyond him, and that he believes MAGA will not die with him, that MAGA will continue to live on. I think there's no question. He is now increasingly confident that if the Republicans play their cards right and continue with their messaging and let the American people know exactly what they're doing and why, that they can now have 8 years of J.D. Vance. And look how he's setting it up. Marco Rubio is essentially J.D.'s potential vice presidential nominee, and that would make Rubio the heir apparent after that. So you could have 8 years of J.D. and then 8 years of Rubio. That's 16 years on top of the 3.5 years that we still have left to go under Trump. So that would be 20 years of MAGA rule. And I think the other thing that he's doing is he's starting to anoint a successor. And that's very, very important. And I think what it shows is, A, the fact that he's mentioning Rubio. A, he's very impressed with what Rubio has done as Secretary of State. He's clearly one of the leading lights in the administration, no question about it. And I think he's also saying he's extremely happy with J.D. Vance. That Vance, philosophically, ideologically, is MAGA to the very core. And in terms of not his style, J.D. is a different man than Trump. Trump is a force of nature. Trump is almost like a bull in a china shop. He's loud and, he has to, if he has to crack heads, he'll crack heads. J.D. is a bit more polished, a tad more wonky. There are differences. But, but overall, in terms of, do you want fair trade? You go with J.D. Do you want an end to endless wars? J.D. Do you want, just run down the whole line, you want a hawk on immigration? J.D. In other words, the heart and soul of MAGA, the key MAGA policies on immigration, on trade, on foreign policy, on tax cuts, on inflation, on just run across the board. I think Trump looks at J.D. and says, intellectually, philosophically, this is my heir apparent. This is my successor. So in some ways, Trump is clearing the field for J.D. Now, there's going to be a primary. There should be a primary. Don't get me wrong. But what that shows to me is that Trump is so confident and so optimistic. He's now, believe it or not, looking even beyond his own term into the future. And that future, he says, is very bright. And he looks at J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio, and he's saying, why can't we dream? Why can't we have, the age of Roosevelt, where the Democrats dominated 4, 5, 6 presidential elections, for example? Trump is saying, yes, this could be the age of Trump, in which even beyond my presidency, my successors will continue to run the country. And so, let me ask all of you, let's throw this log on the fire. With the Democrats imploding, with them now going even further to the Marxist left, with them now going nuts over redistricting in Texas and threatening actual violence on the streets, are we now looking at the possibility of 20 years of MAGA rule? And do you agree with Trump Is J.D. Vance, in your view, the heir apparent? And is J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio the winning ticket for Republicans going forward? Who do you like as the heir apparent? J.D., Marco Rubio? There are others. People are saying they want to go for Ron DeSantis in 2028. What do you think of that? Tulsi Gabbard, with the way she's, the performance that she's now putting in on Russiagate and how she's just doing a superb job as Director of National Intelligence. Her stock is now rising. So, there are other candidates out there that people are looking at. Steve Bannon, believe it or not. His name is getting some play. Who would you like to see be Donald Trump's successor? And are we now looking at the implosion of the Democratic Party and the possibility of a majority MAGA party for 15, 16, 20 years? 617-266-6868 is the number. Let me put my cards on the table. You can agree or disagree, obviously. I love JD. I think he's done a phenomenal job as vice president. And what I love about JD is he has our back. In terms of the America First MAGA movement, he is one of us all the way. So would I support him in 2028? You better believe it. You better believe it. But that's me. I want to hear from you. 617-266-6868. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, best audience in the business. I know, Jeff, you always say it. It's true. I don't know what else to tell you. Okay, just listen to this text. You can text the Kuhner Man, 70470. 70470. This is from 917. And this is so true. So true. Jeff, if you look at the map of the United States, county by county, not state by state, county by county, all you see is red. It's a sea of red with a little blotching of blue on the coasts and a couple of large cities in the interior like Chicago. That's what the Democrats fear if congressional districts were actually fairly drawn. They fear that 20 years or more of GOP domination will result in a House, Senate, and White House run of the table and a real populist revolution. And then 917 adds this, which is again so true. Jeff, and remember, when the Democrats are confident of their power, they clam up and wield that power. But when they are terrified, they shriek, as they are now doing. Bingo. Bingo, bingo, bingo. Look at the map, county by county. It's a sea of red. And then the coastal elites, the coasts, and a few cities in the inside. I mentioned Chicago, there's like Minnesota, whatever, but a couple of cities in the middle, and that's it. It's a sea, it's an ocean of red. What sea? It's an ocean of red. That's what the Democrats now fear. Now, very quickly, many of you are texting the Kuhner Man 1508. Jeff, I disagree with you. I want JD to be the heir apparent, but not Rubio as the Veep. I still don't trust him enough. Tulsi Gabbard should be J.D. Vance's running mate in 2028. Look, I love Tulsi. I would love a J.D. Tulsi ticket. I think it'd be a phenomenal ticket. She's tough, she's smart, she's gutsy, and she's a patriot. And I could easily see her after J.D. Vance becoming the first female president of the United States. I don't want to get ahead of ourselves. But after what she's shown me now in the last couple of months, she's the real deal. Pauline in North Andover. Thanks for holding, Pauline, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. It's Colleen with a C.
Colleen. See, this is what I'm talking about. Mike, this is what I'm talking about. Here's Colleen, C-O-L, probably E-E-N. And
2 L's, 2 E's.
2 L's, forgive me, C-O-L-L-E-E-N. And I have P-A-U-L-I-N-E on the board, Pauline. But he cuts me off, Pauline. Sorry, Colleen. But forgive me, Colleen. Please, go ahead.
Well, I have 3 points. The
Yes,
first
go ahead.
point is that I hope that the governor of Texas does fire all of them. Because isn't it true that if a legislator dies or is fired, resigns, the governor gets to appoint someone to fill that spot?
Yes.
So if the governor gets to appoint, what are there, 14 of these morons out there?
There's about 50 of them.
Oh, 50 of them. Okay, so they're going around state to state, sucking off of the state coffers, i.e. ours. Yesterday, I'm sure Maura provided them with a duck tour, a trolley tour, and lunch and possibly dinner, only at the best, that we paid for. Okay? So if he can replace 50 of them, they can undo any legislation that those idiots put in before the Republicans were able to have a strong enough voice to get their own agenda through. Secondly, Gavin Newsom citing California as the 3rd or 4th most contributory economy in the United States. Folks, what does California take from the federal tax coffer? Give us the net difference. I guarantee you it's minus. It's minus. They're one of the biggest states to go to the coffer. Always taking something. Every little municipality, if you have a town of 5, they've got an ordinance just for that town. Trust me, I know, because I used to have to work with it. Every week there was a new little high law that saved some ridiculous agenda. And thirdly, they're going to investigate Bill and Hillary Clinton and what Bill Clinton was doing at the island, the sex island. Folks, what do you think Bill Clinton was doing? Wake up. This is the sword they're going to die on. This is a distraction from Tulsi Gabbard and the Judiciary Committee. This is all a distraction. They haven't given 2 bits about any of the victims of the illegal immigrant crime. Every week, every 4 days, there's a new story of somebody who's run over, beaten, raped, shot. Okay? They don't have any passion for that. And this is where they have found their passion. Big, big mistake, because you're taking too many casualties with you, and you are now the emperor that has no clothes.
Oh, really well said. Really well said, Colleen. And, you're right. Where's their passion? Their power. You threaten their power, and look at them. Look at them. But you're right. How many victims of illegal alien crime? The inflation that we suffered under Biden? The debacle in Afghanistan? Those 13 Marines being blown up and killed at Abbey Gate? Did they care? They didn't give a damn. But now you threaten their power. Look at them. Look at them. They're like caged animals. Colleen, dynamite call. Please don't be a stranger, Colleen. Call again, and I promise next time Mike will get your name properly spelled on the board. I promise. Tommy in Brockton. Thanks for holding, Tommy, and welcome.
Jeff, on the topic of gerrymandering, Fall River is in congressional district number 4 in Massachusetts. New Bedford is in congressional district number 9. And they're right next door to one another. What do Fall River and New Bedford have in common? What do they have in common?
Well, is it the fentanyl?
No. It's a heavy Portuguese and Cape Verdean communities. Okay? I used to work for one of the largest civil construction contractors. Half of their workforce was from there. And most of those guys that I work with, whether they were carpenters, laborers, or whatever, I was an electrician, were very conservative in their views. They're also very Catholic. The reason why they separated those 2 cities that have, a very strong ethnic minority was to prevent a conservative basically Portuguese Cape Verdean point of view from representing them. And I am sick and tired of hearing holier-than-thou white liberals about, we want to be inclusive. We want to respect all opinions. Well, no, not in Massachusetts if you're not Portuguese. And I really wish some of those people in that community would say, hey, wait a minute. Why are you deliberately putting us in a district within Wellesley or whatever, where we might not necessarily have a whole lot in common or might have different world views? And like I say, I throw that back in the face of every damn highly educated white liberal on social media that's pissing and moaning about, oh my God, this is awful. They're disenfranchising people of color. Well, what the hell are people from Cape Verde? They're people of color. What the hell are people from Portugal? Many of whom first.
Tommy, checkmate. Really, game, set, and match. No, you're right. Fall River and New Bedford they're right beside each other. Becky in the great state of Oregon. Thanks for holding, Becky, and welcome.
Morning, Jeff.
Hi, Becky.
Hey, yeah, this will just take a second. And Trump's people, if you're listening, you're giving me a panic attack with Marco Rubio, okay? I know he seems good. He seems good. But it has to be Tulsi for VP and JD for president. I mean, what else is there? Tulsi has proven herself. Hey, remember that time I called in when I forget why, but I was complaining because she voted when she was in Congress, she voted to impeach him, Trump, I think twice, and I just kept going crazy because it was all based on lies, and I didn't know how she could do that. Well, I guess I've forgiven her because she's proven herself. But, oh, man, not Marco Rubio. I'm going to have a panic attack.
Yeah, well, Becky, I mean, look, it's very, very early. But if you look at the polls, J.D. Vance is far and away the favorite among Republicans, among MAGA, among Trump supporters. Nothing is a shoo-in in life, but he's as close to, again, there's health, there's so many factors between now and 2028. But let's put it this way. If the primary were held today, J.D. Vance would win in a landslide. And I think the other thing that I think a lot of people are kind of overlooking, again, 3 years in politics is an eternity. But if the election were held today, there's polls, J.D. against any other Democrat out there, J.D. against Gavin Newsom, J.D. against Amy Klobuchar, J.D. against Pete Buttigieg, J.D. against Kamala Harris, J.D. against, just literally pick your candidate. He destroys every single one of them. He keeps the Trump coalition completely. It's over 300 electoral college votes. And so, and I honestly, and I think the fact that Trump so early, this is almost unheard of. I've never seen something like this. Again, to Trump's credit. Look, I can just tell you this. People within the administration say that no one has Trump's back more than J.D. Vance. That we may not see it because J.D. does so much stuff behind the scenes, but that on every big issue, Trump relies on J.D. and that he loves J.D.'s advice. He loves his strategy. He loves his support. And he says that J.D. is like a foundation. He's the guy you can build a building on. And that's why it's very unusual 3.5 years out. Now, to be fair, I don't like Rubio either. I would prefer Tulsi Gabbard as the VP. Yeah, I'm with you. But to be fair to Rubio, he has done an extremely good job as Secretary of State. He has surprised me, really surprised me. Now, I would say, look, to Rubio, fine. You can have a big role in the next administration as well. I could see him as Secretary of Defense, National Security Advisor. He can play a big, big role. But personally, if the Kuhner man had things his way, I would make it a J.D. Tulsi ticket. I think it'd be an unstoppable ticket. And on every ground, politically, and what I love most of all, the MAGA populist revolution would just roll on. I mean, then we could really clean out. JD hates the deep state as much as Trump. JD wants strong borders as much as Trump. JD hates endless wars as much as Trump. I mean, I could just go on issue after issue after issue. And in a way that we in the coast, because I know you're out in Oregon, out on the West Coast, I'm obviously here in Boston on the East Coast. But what stood out for me when I went to the convention in Milwaukee in Wisconsin is how much J.D. Vance is loved in the heartland in a way that it doesn't quite connect with us here. And I remember I called up my wonderful wife, Grace, and I said, Trump's going to win. I go based even on the J.D. Vance pick, because my wife, Grace, didn't think it was a good pick. And I said, I'm sorry, you're wrong. You're wrong. She was saying, well, he should have gone with DeSantis, or I'm like, no. In the hotel lobby, as I was walking to my room in the Milwaukee, where the convention was, these are maids. Okay, these are maids. One was a Latina, one was an African American, I think 2 were white. And all 4 of them, now again, this is Wisconsin, and JD's from Ohio. And they're like, did you hear he picked JD? Did you hear? Wow, JD's going to be the VP. Yeah. And so I asked them, I said, well, he's not from Wisconsin. Why are you so enthusiastic? And they all said, when you drive through Milwaukee, do you see all those empty factories? Those used to be smokestacks that used to employ thousands of people. All those jobs were outsourced to Mexico or China or overseas. The only guy who fought for us was J.D. Vance. And they remember that in the heartland, in the Rust Belt, in the Midwest, they love him. They love him. That's why I'm saying, you look at the counties that are all red, that's J.D. country. It's Trump country, obviously. But it's a seamless passing of the baton from Trump to J.D. And that's why I think it's going to be J.D. And I wouldn't be surprised if he goes with Tulsi. Becky, thank you very much for that call. Mike, can I squeeze one more in? Oh, boy. You're really, Mike, you're really enjoying today, huh? I can just see that. Huh? Shutting the Kuhner man down? You love that.